So, Prof, Nobel, you are the head of department at the University of Free State, where we are seated at the moment after this very, very exhilarating colloquium that your team put together in conjunction with the ASASWEI. And the main focus was graduate employability, and you brought everybody together. And it was a wonderful experience. So I'm appreciating that ASASWEI had partnered with the University of Free State. And based on that, I thought, let us just have a conversation, me also being on the EXCO, about our plans as the ASASWEI EXCO, almost 6 months into our office in this new term of office that we are in. So would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, thank you very much again for the opportunity for us to sit down like this and talk about our plans as ASASWEI. Over the past 6 months since we were elected into office, we came into office in September 2025, and this is March 2026. There's been a hive of activities that the executive has been engaged in, and of course, those activities now are coming to finality as we are about to take them out to our constituency to understand exactly what we've been up to. Of course, maybe it's important to also give you a timeline of things that we've been engaged in from the beginning. After having gotten the mandate of being in the office, there are critical things that we were seized with. One, it was one of establishing a strategic plan for the association. We meant to go out and establish a strategic plan. But while we were doing that, we also need to be seized with a global issue that is unfolding, or that has been unfolding since 2023. Of course, I want to start 2023, but in real sense, it goes back to many decades, talk of 1948 and whatnot, up to date, the issue between Israel and Palestine. But of course, there's a what happened from October 2023 to date has been what ultimately the United Nations has, declared as a genocide. They've seen it as a genocide that is taking place in Gaza. Of course, that is an indictment of the Israeli government. But then the issue should be for us as ASASWEI, it's an issue of saying, okay, how do we respond to this? And then it was important for the constituency as a whole to get to its heads together to deliberate on that. And as part of the deliberations in 2023, immediately after that, what happened is that ASASWEI issued a statement to ASASW, which is our international mother body, to say, here is a genocide unfolding. Can we get together and talk about what needs to be done? And we made certain requests to say ISSW really needed to be seized with this issue, and the list needed to just be a statement on that particular issue. But of course, there was no response in that regard. And then from there, we then went on to, with our term of office, 2025. We then wrote another statement to...
Okay, so if I can just stop you then, if I'm understanding the timeline correctly, 2023 was a previous term of office, right?
It was, yes, you are correct. That was the previous term of office.
Right.
And luckily during that time, I was the vice president of the association, ASASWEI, when we wrote to ISSW.
Yes.
And then that's when we initiated this engagement with ISSW. Then in this current term of office, we then had to make a follow-up. But before the follow-up came as a result of the constituents getting together to say, you wrote this letter requesting ISSW to respond. They haven't responded. What else then do we do? We said, no, we needed to engage them again, because dialogue is the most important thing for us, especially in critical issues such as this that is unfolding in Gaza. And then we were given the mandate to write another letter this time to try and be emphatic, make some demands. And some of those demands were saying, look, we want ASASWEI to request an engagement with colleagues from Israel, schools of social work in Israel, to try and find out if there's any assistance that they need, or if there's or what their take is on the unfolding genocide in Gaza. So we wanted that kind of collegial engagement. We also said, look, if the colleagues are not willing to engage, then ISSW really needed to now hold them to account, because look, we are an association as informed by the definition of social work, looking at issues of social justice, which is very critical, pivotal in the unfolding genocide. So they needed really to say, indicate how they are playing in that space. But if they do not want, then ISSW also needed to make a statement, because up to now, ISSW hasn't made an emphatic statement with regards to that particular issue. So these are some of the, I think we made about 4 requests from ISSW. And then subsequent to that, we had an engagement, bilateral engagement with ISSW, our executive with representative of ISSW, that included the president of ISSW as well as the secretary. So we engaged and we agreed, and they said by the end of 2025 they were going to make a statement, because they also understand that that is a genocide and ISSW cannot be quiet in that regard. They also said that they were going to take that issue to their board. They were going to have a board in somewhere in February. So we agreed to that.
In January.
Yes, in in January, 23rd of January. So we agreed to that. But come end of the year, 2025, there was no statement from ISSW as agreed. In fact, what we saw was an immediate statement from the president that was basically talking about wishing people good festivities and whatnot. And in that statement, you found 1 or 2 lines talking about the genocide that is happening in there. And when it was good for the president to do that, but it wasn't enough. Because look, we are just conflicting issues. This is a very huge issue that needs specific attention on its own. But then the president, in any case, did that. The president of ISSW did that, and then we waited. We saw that, but then we said, okay, no, that's fine. In any case, she promised us that they're going to have a board meeting. We waited for the board meeting. It took place. And in that board, as we got to understand, because you are also our representative, we were in that board, you were our representative in that board. That matter was put as as the last item in the agenda, a very long agenda. And by the time they got to that item, it wasn't fully engaged with that particular matter. So as a result, there was also even the engagement was only one dimensional, or looking just at what the ISSW president just thought that, you know what, we needed to establish a committee that will have terms of reference that when we saw, we thought that these were very broad and general terms of reference that were covering about every other humanitarian crisis in the world. So we thought, and of course they did that. Then they wrote back to us to say, no, we saw your demands or your requests of us, but unfortunately we will not be going that trajectory. We will already be establishing this committee that will look at all the general humanitarian crises around the world. And that's where really we thought that, no, the ISSW is not really taking us serious when we are raising this critical matter. And for them is to establish a committee with general terms. And for us, really, it was an issue of saying, while other issues are important worldwide, this is one issue, one genocide that we are looking at worldwide. That is really, we say, if we manage to respond appropriately to this genocide, we'll be able to respond to any other crisis worldwide. But if we fail to handle this, then there's no way in which we're going to handle any other issue worldwide. So subsequent to that, we engaged our constituency, and they then said, if ISSW is not playing the ball, then let us withdraw.
Okay, so you've given quite a significant timeline of how this has been unfolding, and from your previous term in office. And I think what's important also is that that was my previous term in office.
Yes.
Well, not my previous term. The international representative represents for 4 years.
Yes.
So this was my starting of my current term. So this is year 3 of that term. And IASSW had a changeover in their leadership as well. So the previous leadership had made a statement on the war in Ukraine. However, did not mention anything about this unfolding genocide, especially since the UN has declared it a genocide. But then I want to ask you, Mpumi, why is this genocide such an important issue for ASASWEI? Because ASASWEI is an academic association. So why would you go and take such a strong action?
Yes, you need to understand, as I indicated earlier on when we were talking about the definition of social work, it is an academic as well as a practice-based profession. So when all these things are happening, we look at them from that context. We say these are the communities in which our students are practicing, and these are the communities that we are servicing as an academic association or as academics, as we are doing, as we are teaching, teaching and learning in social work. So, and there is no way in which a humanitarian crisis of the magnitude of a genocide can happen, and we are teaching our students of how to deal with issues of social injustice. And here it is happening in the communities, and they see us as educators not taking a stance in that. We need to be seen to be taking a stand. How do we, on a practical level, move from theory, practically, how do we deal with issues of injustice happening to us, next to us, and also happening to other people globally? So it is important. And why is it that we are talking about Palestine? Look at where we are. We're here in South Africa. Why? Because we are an affiliate of ASSW, which is a global body, and our mother body is an international body. So it is at that level that we're saying when these things happen at an international level, ASSW must be able to respond to these issues. So we can't be quiet. And keeping quiet on these issues, then it means we're also complicit. And what will our students say? They'll say we are good in theory, but we can't practice what we are teaching. One. Secondly, we are researchers as academics, and we research on these issues. We talk about actions that need to be taken when issues of injustice manifest. And here it is happening before us. We've written, and some of our colleagues have written quite a lot on these particular issues. And now when it comes to a point where we have to practically take a stand and do something about it, all of a sudden we're found wanting. We cannot be found wanting. Otherwise, the history will judge us harshly as having been complicit.
So what are the so I'm asking you, but I'm thinking to myself as well. What are the social issues that the people of Palestine facing a genocide from a social context will be facing? Not necessarily only that we are going from a social justice point of view, that the war must stop, that peace must reign, that cohesion must be sought, and that land must be given back to its rightful owners, because we have a history such as that ourselves. And Israel was part of that process of supporting the apartheid government in those years, which we would not forget. And therefore, I suppose our history dictated why South Africa took that stance and went to the international ICJ. So from a social work point of view, those issues of trauma for children, child-headed families, displacement, all of the micro-level issues of behavior challenges, the sense of belonging, the circle of courage being broken. And these are the things that we want for all children's well-being and thriving. But then in addition to that, the sensitization and desensitization to using weapons and to seeing violence unfold. What kind of a society will be left in Palestine post this genocide? And so if social workers, we are training them to respond and to intervene in these ways in whichever country they work in, why aren't we looking at what Palestinian people and children will be experiencing? So I think that for me stood out very significantly. But I want to ask you this question. How did you consult your constituency to take a decision?
Yeah, it's important because when you are sitting at, in fact, maybe let me acknowledge what you've just said, which is very, very important. And the generational trauma that, is going to take place, insofar as the population of Palestine, Gaza is going, exposed to. So that generational trauma. So the future social workers will be dealing with this issue for decades to come. So others will ask us that why didn't you try and prevent this? Or what did you do? Even if we may not have the power to prevent it now, but what are the small little attempts that you did to try and speak to this? So if we don't do anything, obviously we will be found wanting so far as ourselves as ASASWEI are concerned. So I'm acknowledging what you're saying, the different impact that these particular issues have.
So that's the history that will judge us then, right?
History will judge us harshly. Yeah. Then we come to the process that we embarked on. ASASWEI is an organization that has got a constitution. It detects to us what needs to happen. If you're going to make a motion and you want to make a move, you consult the constituency. I indicated that initially it was that we wrote a letter after the constituency had said, can you see what is happening in Palestine? What are you saying? So that was the initial in 2023. Then subsequently, when we called, it was meant to be discussed at the annual general meeting. It wasn't because, unfortunately, in fact, we did engage on that one at that moment. Then we agreed that let individual institutions go and discuss this particular issue in their respective institutions. Let universities in their own departments discuss this particular issue. Then the executive will convene a special general meeting. We will want our members, as in the departments, to bring representatives to come and talk about this particular issue, and they have to say what they discussed as departments. So that's what we did. A special general meeting was called in 2020. 2026. Now, this is 2026. We then called a special general meeting to say, you've been given time to discuss this issue. Now come, tell us, what are the people saying? What are our members saying on the ground? Then it was discussed robustly. There were, robust engagements, I can tell you. And then from there, ultimately, the issue of saying perhaps we will need to consider pulling out of IA if IA does not want to give us an EA and is not responsive, because we need a meaningful response to our request. If they do not do that, then let's consider the issue of withdrawing. So in the letter that we wrote to IA, we indicated to them that these are the issues that we're putting before you. And on the table also, there's an issue of withdrawing if you're really not taking this issue seriously.
So if I reverse, go back a little bit, rewind, it means then that at your special general meeting, you took a vote.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly what happened. To say, as we were discussing that, ultimately in that meeting, this issue was tabled, different viewpoints have been heard. Ultimately, we said, okay, let's put this matter to vote. Let us hear what our institutions are saying now by the means of a vote. And we put it to vote, and it was transparent. Everybody saw how different institutions voted, and the outcome was given that, and the mandate was given that we needed to then withdraw from ISSW.
And that meeting was correct?
It was correct. And the minutes are there. Institutions were there. I think there were 2 institutions that were not represented in that. Then a decision was taken. I, from the president's point of view, wouldn't have driven an agenda that says, let us unilaterally as an executive take a decision on what to do. We cannot do that. And in actual fact, our members can hold us accountable to say, who gave you the mandate? But today, if you ask me who gave you the mandate to do this, I'll pull the minutes and say, here, this is where we got the mandate. And we remind different members how we got to this. So ultimately, when we had to withdraw from ISSW, what we are saying, the message that we are passing out there is that this is a protest vote. We belong to ISSW. ISSW is ours in as much as it also belongs to everybody worldwide. We've got a stake in there. But now we are saying we are not in good terms insofar as understanding or finding each other on this particular matter, and they do not want to really listen in that regard. Therefore, we are protesting. There are different ways of protesting. So one of those that our members mandated us to do is to withdraw. So that is a protest action to withdraw. At our next general meeting, which is coming in a couple of months when we convene in September, this issue will be on the table to say, we withdrew from ISSW, it's been so much time, can we review this? how do we carry it forward? So at that point again, different departments, our members, individuals have got the right to say, we think this is a good action, we think now this is the next trajectory that you need to take, or whatever will emanate from there. So the executive is not vested in a particular action that will be alienated from the demands of our membership. If our membership tomorrow wakes up and says, no, we took a decision, that will be in the next general meeting, we took a decision to withdraw, we understand we've sent a message, now we want you to go back, we'll definitely do that. But if they say, no, the message hasn't been heeded, let's continue a little while, again we'll do that, or whatever the action will emanate from our member. We've got no right to actually dictate to the membership on what needs to happen.
Okay, so withdrawal is, as you said, a form of protest. And you've withdrawn, or ASASWEI has withdrawn based on from the conversation, based on the mandate from the constituency. Okay, so you followed your constitution as you outlined at the beginning of the conversation. But coming out of IASSW and taking yourself away from the table where decisions are made, how, in your view, does ASASWEI make sense of that?
Yes. One, it is from ISSW to see that we've lost a member, but did we lose them on justified grounds? So for them, it is for ISSW to reflect. And if really they apply logic, they'll see that, but these people, as ASASWEI had a point, can we reflect on that and see how we can re-engage them? That's one. But for us, again, it's an issue of saying we've made that statement, and like we say, we're going to review at some point. But at the same time, it does not only end there. We need to consider other means again of saying, how do we try and conscientize our students, our membership as a whole, on issues of injustice? When they rear their ugly heads wherever they occur, how do we deal with them? Because this is just but one case. There are so many cases. There are issues of people being killed in Sudan. We see the Eastern DRC, what is happening there. We are seeing the continuing war in Ukraine, and now that is also now directly pulling Africans in there. We saw in South Africa here, South Africans being pulled into that war, and we see in Botswana, in Mozambique, and in Nigeria, people being pulled to go and participate in that war. How then do you, in your right sense of mind, do you keep quiet and you say this has got nothing to do with me? The families of those who go and participate in that war, and the conclusion is quite clear: if you go to that war, you die, and they are dying literally. The soldiers who are leaving South Africa or Africa to go and participate, they are dying. And what are we left with as social workers in Africa? We are left to deal with grieving families. So do you want us to keep quiet? Or we say, no, consciously as social workers, we've got a role to play here. We've got a voice. Let us voice out. So that's what we say. That's what we mean. So, and of course, maybe just another thing.
Yeah.
One will say, we understand you're talking about all these issues, even if it's Sudan or wherever. All these issues are far-fetched from us. They are not. I've just highlighted now. But also, we've got issues of social injustice that are happening here in South Africa, directly to our students, directly to the communities that we are servicing, directly to the communities in which our universities are. Then we need to, if we can't take a stand on those issues, how are we going to take a stand on these particular issues? If you can't take a stand on a particular social injustice, you lose legitimacy in taking a stand on another social injustice. So these are the issues that we're grappling with.
So I'm very intrigued by the fact that, ASWA has a strong role to play as well in respect of what's unfolding in Africa. And ASASWEI is quite strong because South Africa is stronger than many other countries in Africa. And what would ASASWEI need in order to stand together with our colleagues in Africa?
Yes. In Africa, now you've just highlighted the point on ASWA, which is our African body. Correct, and we affiliate with them, and we are playing a very critical role. In fact, in the history of ISSW, South Africans played a critical role in shaping it to be what it is. So now it will be a dereliction of duty if all of a sudden we're turning our back in how we shape its future trajectory. The same applies to ASWA. South Africa plays a critical role in ASASWEI. We've got a stake in there, and we pledge to continue building ASASWEI, playing our role in building ASASWEI together with other colleagues from elsewhere in the continent to make sure that ASASWEI is a strong body. So our engagement with ASASWEI is for ASASWEI to understand and also stand in solidarity with ASASWEI on this particular issue and all the other other issues that have to do with issues of injustice. So we are calling for ASASWEI to do that. We are not calling them for them to withdraw. If they withdraw, it will be up to them after having followed their own processes. But we are calling for them to really take a stand. How they take a stand is up to them. Take a stand on issues of social injustice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So now that we, as ASASWEI, have withdrawn from IASSW, surely we can't just sit back and be quiet. What are the other actions that might unfold? Have you considered that yet?
There are other issues that we are considering from a curriculum point of view. These issues must really be clearly pronounced so that our students get to understand this. But also, beyond the curriculum, beyond the classroom, we are saying let us engage other regional bodies. In Africa, well, of course, in Africa, we're engaging ASASWEI, and beyond that, let's engage other regional bodies to say, here is an issue here of the genocide unfolding in Palestine, and of course, we've got our mother body, which is ISSW. Can we try and influence ISSW to really be forthright in dealing with this issue and all other issues as well? But now the focus is on this issue, and we are convinced that if we manage to deal with one issue successfully, it sets a precedence. So in the absence of precedence, and you want to deal with issues holistically, you may struggle and you may actually eventually fail to achieve the end goal that you said to do. So these are the issues that we're doing. But of course, as researchers, it also comes down to saying, let's ensure that also our research gets to reflect the realities of our people. Here in South Africa, locally, we move to Africa, we move to the global stage. Our research must speak to these people. Our research cannot be divorced from the realities experienced by our students, our colleagues, other educators, and the populations that we service.
No, I think that you've made the points very clearly. And so I think that what you are saying is that ASASWEI is standing on a principle, one that is underpinning social work, which is social justice and human rights. And if I'm understanding correctly as well, and from our interactions with various other departments, schools, those that are feeling the tension of the withdrawal from ASASWEI, that social justice and human rights is not a theoretical construct. You cannot teach it in a class, but then stay away from it when it comes to giving action to it. And to say that we should be restricted to classroom activities only is actually a misjudgment, because we are not training academics. We are training students to go out and be social workers, practitioners. So I think that's where the distinction lies for me, and thank you for clarifying that. So on that, I want to just hear what's your Social Work Month message to colleagues.
No, it's important. We are having this discussion during the World Social Work Month, where we are focusing really on social workers. And of course, if you get to look at the theme for this year, it talks about coming together and building, holding hands, building unity. The notion of Harambe is drawn from Swahili. It calls us to really come together. Let us put our hands together in tackling the issues that are pervasive in our institutions, are pervasive in the communities that we are servicing. So it's important. We're saying let's really hold together. And if issues are raised, let us jointly look at them and constructively and decisively deal with them. We cannot be found wanting. We can't be dithering as social workers. We really need to be decisive in dealing with these issues. It is important. And from the associations, some of the activities, we called out different departments to be engaged in some form of activities that speaks to this particular theme. And as ASASWEI today, we just came from a colloquium that was jointly hosted by the Department of Social Work here at the University of the Free State, ASASWEI, as well as the Department of Social Development, Free State. That is a government department. So we're doing that. And it called together different stakeholders, key industry players were there. We had about 60 of them engaging in issues that have to do with our social workers, social work graduates, their, how their relevance into the field. Particularly, it points to the employability or absorption of our social work graduates into the labor market. And of course, other non-traditional pathways that need to be considered, including, so talking about issues of rebranding of our social workers. We're doing all this during this month, but the actions will go beyond this month. We were just initiating these activities, but the actions, as per the resolutions of the colloquium, really would be far-reaching.
Thank you very much, Prof. I think that we've covered significant ground in respect of what ASASWEI stands for, what they wish to do, and how they wish to take their term of office, their current term of office forward. And we look forward to the consultative engagements as well as the celebratory moments with our member partner departments, so that they put out all what they're doing on the website. We can upload it to the website, and that we keep the space vibrant.
Precisely.
So it was lovely talking to you.
Thank you so much.